street animals are a problem here in Puerto Rico, Mexico, and much of Latin America.
So today we're going to tell you our experience rescuing 2 dogs here in Puerto Rico, and we're going to give you some tips on what you can do to help alleviate this problem. Empecemos. Hola amigos, Jim and Mike here from Spanish and Go, your resource for learning real-world travel Spanish. Today we're going to talk about something that is really emotional for us. Animals. We love animals. We wish we could have a huge house and rescue a bunch of them, but we can't. And recently we found 2 dogs here in Puerto Rico, and we decided to help them find their home. We had no idea what we were doing, and soon we learned that these 2 dogs were probably abandoned, just like many other dogs have been abandoned here in Puerto Rico after Huracán Maria.
So one day we were out and about on our afternoon walk, and we saw 2 young dogs running around and playing. And we caught their attention and played with them a bit, and we noticed that they didn't have collars or tags. So we didn't really think much of it. We figured that they belonged to somebody in the neighborhood, so we went home.
And these 2 dogs later appeared in our backyard. They were running around, going crazy, playing together, and it was getting late. It was getting really cloudy, and we saw they were very thirsty, so we just put a bowl of water outside. So the dogs stay there by the door, by the water, and they would go run for a few minutes, and they would come back, drink some water, and leave again. And we didn't know what to think of that. But it started raining, so we were like, should we take them and look for their owners? So we did. We took a little walk around the neighborhood there, asking people, have you seen these dogs? Do you know who their owners are? But nobody knew anything. And yeah, we didn't know what to do. We thought they know how to get home. When they get tired of playing here, they're gonna go to their house. But they didn't. They stayed there, and now it started raining really bad. So one of them just came back. He was like, hey, let me in. I'm getting wet. So we took that one and gave him a bath. And shortly after, the other one showed up. We did the same thing, and we were like, okay, maybe we could take care of them just for tonight, and then tomorrow morning we'll go out again and look for their owners.
But one thing we noticed was that when we were giving them baths, that they had fleas and ticks, and so that kind of gave us our first clue that maybe they had been outside for a while. So the next day, we posted their story to Facebook, to some of the local lost and found groups, and their story was shared quite a bit. I was hopeful. I thought that somebody was going to say, those are my dogs, they got out, thanks for catching them.
I'll come pick them up or something.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think their story was shared like 300 times that first time, and nobody said anything. And we thought, that's weird.
There was a lot of people who said, oh, they're cute, hopefully you find their homes.
Yeah.
But no one stepped up to say, those are my dogs.
So the next day, we just went to the neighborhood across from ours, and we started knocking on doors, asking people if they knew the dogs. And the only thing that people were telling us was that we should keep them because they were probably abandoned, and that they were cute, and that they were ours now.
But we couldn't keep them. We travel quite a bit, and although we're based in Puerto Rico now, it just wouldn't have been fair to them for us to, be leaving all the time or fly with them all the time. Just financially unrealistic. Really, there was no way, as much as we wanted to keep them, we couldn't. So we had to keep looking. So around that time, my parents were coming to the island to come visit us and go on vacation. And Mai, in her research, found that there was an event coming up put on by the Humane Society in the US. And so this event is called the Spay-a-thon, and they have it several times a year here in Puerto Rico, where they come as volunteers, sterilize animals, thousands of them at each of these events. It's really incredible, and it's all for free. It's all for the benefit of the animals, because the Humane Society knows that there's a huge problem with street animals here. And so we thought, you know, to make these dogs more desirable for adoption, we should go. We should get them sterilized, we should get their shots. Hopefully that'll make it easier to find a family.
So this event was really cool because not only did they spay and neuter a bunch of animals, but they were also giving them their shots. They were also giving them some leashes and collars and also food. They even gave us a cage because one of them liked chewing on stuff, and we didn't want him chewing on stuff when we were gone. We are glad that we found them.
And it worked out because it was the last full day that my parents were here. We still didn't have a car yet, but fortunately they had rented one. And so we were able to take them to the spay-a-thon. When we got there, there were tons of people. They weren't even gonna let us in because they said they're already at capacity. But by some stroke of luck, we were able to get them in. We were last on the list and had to wait all day, but we were able to get them in. And this was the first time we actually had to give them some sort of name.
Yeah, because since we found them, we knew we weren't gonna keep them, so we didn't give them any real names. But one of them was bigger than the other, so we started calling them Grande and Chiquito.
I was embarrassed the moment that we put that down on paper. I'm like, couldn't be any more creative than to call them Grande and Chiquito, but we just didn't want to become attached. They're beautiful little dogs, but we knew we couldn't keep them. So Grande and Chiquito it was.
Yeah. Chiquito se ve nervioso. I think it's a little nervous. Right, Chiquito?
So we got them neutered there. Such an incredible service. I just couldn't believe that they were putting all this on for free. Having this done made them more desirable. But it wasn't enough because we put their story out there again, saying this time that they're not lost, that they're abandoned, and they need homes. And this story got shared over 500 times on Facebook, just from Facebook groups based here in Puerto Rico. And again, I had high hopes. I thought, what more could someone ask for? They're two young dogs, about 1 year old each, and they had everything. They had a cage, they had collars, they had leashes, they had a 17-pound bag of food that the spay-a-thon gave to us. They had everything.
The rabies certificate, yeah, and still people were just sharing, but no luck finding them a home. And so let's sit down here for a little bit.
Yeah. I have a little bit more to tell. So after that second time sharing their story, saying outright they need a home, we didn't have a lot of options. We remembered that at the spay-a-thon that if worst came to worst, we could get them on a plane to a shelter in the US, and they, from there, were way more likely to find a permanent home.
Because, before the spay-a-thon, we had already called some of the shelters here on the island, the shelters that are no-kill shelters, but nobody was answering their phone. We were only getting voicemails, well, not voicemail, but like the recording thing, saying that they were full and that they couldn't accept any more animals at the moment. And so we didn't know what to do. We waited for 2 weeks until they got better after their surgery. And we got in touch with this organization, Sato Rescue. They were really helpful finding them a way to the US.
Yeah, and if you guys remember from our other video, a Sato is a mixed dog. And that turned out to be a bigger deal here than I thought. For me, I've always had mixed dogs at home as pets, and they're always great. I never thought once in my life that having a purebred dog would be better. But here, it's a big deal. Purebred dogs are much more desirable. And since these two were obviously mixed, we think that Grande was a black lab mixed with pit bull. He had definitely some pit bull features in his face. And Chiquito looked like he was mixed with a wiener dog.
Chihuahua, yeah.
Yep, a Chiweenie is what people told us he was called. But they're cute, they're adorable animals. But that turned out to be, a factor here. So Sato Rescue takes in mixed dogs and help them find permanent homes. And it sounds like a common practice for them is to send them to shelters in the US.
And so that's what we did, which started another process where we had to take them to the vet several times and get them a travel certificate. One of them ended up having parasites, so we did a little fundraiser on your Facebook page to help pay for their parasite medicine.
Yeah, having 2 dogs was definitely not in our budget, but we just couldn't let these 2 out alone outside. I mean, we've heard people talk about, our friend Fernando told us that there's a beach here called Dead Dog Beach where a lot of people just abandon their animals. And the thought of that was just, we couldn't let it happen. It was just impossible for us. We had to take care of them even though we weren't really in the financial position to. So thanks so much for donating, Fernando, Rick, Ellen, Chris, Jessica. That helped a lot.
So the next problem we had was the travel certificate, especially the acclimation letter, a letter that the vets have to fill out with all the dogs' information and also the temperature that the dogs or the animals can travel in. And since these 2 were going to New Hampshire, we were told to ask the vet if they could write the lowest temperature to be 20. We were told that if we didn't get that temperature on the paper, they would probably not be let on the plane. Mm-hmm. So we went to the vet, we talked to the nurse, and she was like, yeah, I don't think the vet here is gonna do 20, that's too low. Maybe he can do 35. Maybe you can check and see if they're gonna be fine with that. And we were calling the Sato Rescue, but nobody was getting our call. So the vet came into the room and he already had the papers signed. He didn't say anything about the temperatures or nothing. They gave us all of the papers in a little envelope. He was like, okay, here, you can go pay, and that's it. And so we went and paid, but when we went outside, we were checking the paper in the car and we noticed that he didn't even put 35, he wrote 40.
Yeah. So I went back inside trying to convince the vet to lower the number, and I mean, this is hard, I get it. Dogs shouldn't be out in the cold for long, but I'm from Minnesota, I've had dogs in Minnesota, and as long as it's not that long, they'll be okay. This was to save their lives, mind you, so we obviously didn't want them to freeze to death, but getting them to the States was basically the only other option they had to live happy lives. So we were checking the weather and it looked like it was gonna be colder than the temperature the vet put down. We were able to get in touch with Sato Rescue and they said that's probably not going to work. So they recommended another vet for us to go to. Went there the next day, had to do the whole same process again.
Pay again.
Pay again. It was 3 times as much at this other vet too.
Yeah. And let me just point out that this is the day before they're scheduled to travel. Mm-hmm. So we were freaking out. But we finally got all their paperwork and they were ready. Mm-hmm. We only had like 3 hours of sleep that night, and at 2 a.m, we got up. We gave them some food and we started driving because we are like as far as you can be from San Juan. We are in Boquerón, so that's like
almost the opposite corner of the island.
So yeah, we had to start driving early. We got there at like 5. And we were still worried about the paperwork because this second vet could only do 25 degrees Fahrenheit on the acclimation letter, and we didn't know if it was gonna work. We checked and the temperature for that day was 19, the lowest temperature for in New Hampshire that day, so we were really nervous.
Yeah, we thought we were gonna have to drive all the way back with them because if they couldn't get on the plane, they'd have to go back with us. So we met with a volunteer there who's working with Sato Rescue, getting all the paperwork together at the airport. We were at the American Airlines cargo area because they put all the dogs there on a cargo plane. And there were 5 of them. And we got them put in their kennels to fly. It was so sad. I I had a really hard time. We grew really attached to them. Giving them non-specific names didn't really help at all because we learned so much about their personalities and we started training them and got to know their little quirks, like Chiquito. When he was nervous, we couldn't figure out why he would do it, but he would do this little like smiley thing. Like it was a non-aggressive thing where he'd show his teeth and it was so cute.
¿Qué haces? ¿Es okay? ¿Es okay? ¿Es okay, chiquito? ¿Por qué me muestras los dientes? ¿Por qué? Chiquito. Chiquito. It's okay. It's okay.
They are adorable dogs, and we know they'll get adopted by a nice family soon. So we hung out in the San Juan area for a while because we knew that if they couldn't get on the plane, they'd have to go back with us. But fortunately, they were able to fly. And since Sato Rescue has let us know that they made it safe and sound.
So this is a story of two dogs that got lucky that we were around, that we could do something for them. But unfortunately, not all the cats and dogs that are on the streets here have the same story. And we know this is a huge problem also in Latin America. I know in Mexico, some people just have dogs to take care of their house and they just leave them up on the roof or just outside in the patio. And if it's raining, they get wet. If it's too hot outside.
Yeah, they're literally treated like just a cheap form of security.
And unfortunately, that's part of the culture. Same with like cockfighting, which we recently talked a little bit about in another video here in Puerto Rico. Bullfighting is also common in some places in Mexico.
Still common in Spain.
Yeah, and so we know that the treatment some animals get in Latin America and in the Caribbean is not the best. And we think there's things we can do as tourists to help alleviate this problem, and we want to give you some tips on what you can do.
So the first thing you can do as a traveler to help animals on the street is to carry some sort of food with you for dogs and cats when you see them. You can carry it with you in your purse, in your backpack, whatever, but a little bit of food might be all they need to survive another day and get the help they need.
Another thing you can do to help alleviate this problem is to let it be known. If you are going to a place where you see a lot of stray cats and dogs and that breaks your heart, take pictures and put them online, put them on Facebook or Instagram and tag the tourism boards representing that area you're in, because the government and the tourism should be putting funds to help these animals, to find them a home or to spay and neuter like they do here in Puerto Rico. The government should be spending money on that.
Yeah.
So.
You're letting them know that it's a problem and that it's affecting their reputation. And so the third and most important thing you can do, in my opinion, is to donate to organizations that are helping animals on the street find homes. The work that organizations are doing like Sato Rescue and the Humane Society in the US is incredible. These people are doing some really sad and demanding work, but money directed their way is money well spent because they are really helping animals find permanent homes, getting animals healthy enough to have a permanent home where the animals won't have to worry about where they're going to find their next meal on the street.
Mm-hmm. They run on just donations.
Yeah.
Caring for animals is expensive, especially when you have a building dedicated to helping them.
Yeah, there's food to pay for, there's vaccinations to pay for. There's a lot of costs that go into caring for these animals before they find a home. So donating to them is huge, and we're going to leave links in the description. If you choose to donate to them, please let them know that Jim and Mai from Spanish and Go sent you on behalf of Chiquito and Grande.
Letting them go was really hard. We wanted to record like the whole thing as we were getting them ready and we were at the airport, but it was so hard.
Mai's already gonna start again, but I did too. We tried to record some pieces and...
Well, Mai.
Fue difícil.
This is just a really tough subject for us. I mean, the thing is, I know some people are gonna watch this and say, well, what about homeless people and all this? These animals are innocent. There's nothing they could do. They need us, and we bred them to be our companions, and to abandon them is unacceptable. There was no option. We saw them alone, and we had to help them. It was gonna rain. Like, we're just gonna let these puppies be cold and wet in the rain and hungry and thirsty. It's just, there's no other option. So if this story touched you, as Chiquito and Grande touched our hearts, just please donate. Please do something, because we can do something.
I just need a minute here. Let us know in the comments if you have any other tips on what tourists can do to help alleviate this kind of problems. Thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel and Spanish tips.
And remember, el camino es el destino.
The journey is the destination.
Nos vemos pronto.
Adios.